So, hi, I'm Tricia Broderick. I'm with Agile for All. And last live stream about 2 weeks ago was a bit of a downer, but it was real. It was honestly where where I personally was at the moment, and where a lot of people were and still are in terms of how we're all processing what's happening and what's going on in the world. So when I was thinking about what to do this go around, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to go to the go to the other side. I don't want to feel like I'm going to cry during the live stream today. So I started thinking about what I could use more of right now, especially in feeling kind of in a disconnected, isolated environment, and what maybe others could use more of, and how we could go about that. And that landed me on appreciations. And so today's topic, we're gonna dive a little bit into just making sure we understand what we mean by appreciations, because there's sometimes some overloaded dynamics with it, why it's important, and then hopefully give you some ideas and ways that you can appreciate, especially your coworkers, your colleagues, but even family and whatnot within the people and the relationships within your life. So let's get started. I like using from the Harvard Business Review did this article in 2019 where they really distinguished between recognition and appreciation. And I know a lot of people use that interchangeably, and honestly, sometimes I don't really care. But there is another dynamic with appreciation that is important. So sometimes I find that definition or the differentiation valuable for me, especially as a leader, to understand what I'm really trying to praise or give to the other person. So recognition is truly targeted at performance related to a job or something they did at work, which is important. You should be doing that and you need to be giving recognition. Appreciation, on the other hand, is about acknowledging a person's inherent value. So it could be tied to what they were doing, but it's bigger than that. It's saying, as an individual, as a human, I appreciate what you bring to not just the organization, or not just your role, or not just your work, but to us as social and interconnected and collaborative humans. And so I really like that dynamic, because I think it goes deeper with the appreciation and really understanding what that value is, and helping the other person to understand what their value that they're bringing to other people is. And it's really important. Like, there's so many studies out there. There are different studies. Like, Gottman has a study from a marriage perspective. There's others out there. And although the results vary, what is consistent is that you need more positives than negatives to have kind of a healthy interaction, for your brain to be able to process those criticisms and really do it in a productive way. I mean, I've seen everything from ranges from like 3 to 1 to 7 to 1. And so the range varies, but what is consistent is there's no 1 to 1. There's no more negatives than positives. There are always more positives than negative. And we can all say, yes, giving feedback, criticism especially, is super challenging, both to give it as well as to receive it. Like, it's hard, but so is appreciation, because we're not always wonderful at giving or receiving appreciation, myself included. For a very long time, if you tried to appreciate me, I would be like, no, 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 that's the team. That's no, I didn't do. I would deflect your appreciation like it was almost a superpower. Okay. And so as much as we struggle with giving criticism and receiving criticism, we're actually not very great at appreciation either. And so when we start thinking about how we give appreciation, especially in the workplace, we tend to start thinking only financially. And sure, you can, in fact, you can give out, the gift card to people. And that's valuable. It is, but there's other ways of doing it too. And I think at work, we tend to only think those financial bonus or gift cards or lunches as the only ways to give appreciation. And you can absolutely do those, but there's so many more approaches and so many other things that honestly make it a little bit more personal. I attended a session back at Scrum Gathering. I don't remember which one, so sorry. And Maria Mattarelli did a session on the gratitude formula. And in that, she had these different dynamics of, be specific when you're giving your appreciation. Incorporate how it's making you feel when you're giving that appreciation. And also the third part that was kind of new to me that I really liked was, and why it was a need, or it wasn't just like, hey, thank you for doing X, and that made me feel good. But I needed to, and here's why I needed it too. Because I think there's a dynamic sometimes that it's nice to appreciate somebody and say, hey, that was lovely, but you don't always expose why you actually needed that to happen, that added to the feeling of happiness or value or, whatever your kind of satisfaction coming out of it. And so when you do give appreciation, even if you give a gift card, don't just give the gift card. Give a specific, with feeling, with need, as to what you're appreciating. Oh, lovely, live. What you're appreciating as you're going and as you're giving it to them. But there are other ways. And so I want to call out different little things and things that I've either received or I've given as a result with it. And they can be really small. I mean, a simple text to somebody right now with just, again, being specific, with feeling, with need, might make somebody's day. Some of my best moments are when and it's crazy because it always happens. You get the text in the moment sometimes that you need it the most too. Like, I don't, maybe that's just me, but I'll be doing something and then all of a sudden I get this text or a message, email, any kind of email form. And recently I got it from somebody that was recently promoted, and they were actually appreciating me for helping them and setting an example and doing all these things. And they gave all these specifics, and they highlighted the need and the feelings. And I was walking on cloud nine. Like I didn't need it to be public. Well, now I've made it public, but like I didn't need it to be shouted from the rooftops. I felt it. I felt it so genuine. And as a result, I'm super proud of that person, but I'm also like a little proud of myself with it. And so take the minute to send that message, whether it's an email, whether it's in text, call, right? But actually use the words. So often we're like, hey, thanks, as we're walking by. It's like, it's kind of like the hi, how are you doing? I'm not even waiting for you to respond. I'm just gonna keep on walking, right? It's like, we have time now. You're not going anywhere. So take the minute, send the text, send the email, give the call, and take a second beforehand and think about what you want to appreciate them for and offer that up. It doesn't have to be this big, grandiose public announcement to make the difference. Let me give you a different style is little tokens. Tokens can come in lots of different forms that have an interesting impact, especially in the workplace. We tend to be like, we're professional and we're grown up. And I cannot tell you how many people, when we do little appreciation tokens, keep them at their desk proudly, right? And do different things with them. It could be anything from like a made up certificate, award, to actually, like a little token of like, hey, remember to laugh at work. And I keep this was given to me as an appreciation gift, a little token. I mean, it looks like a rock, but it's not very heavy. Okay. But I just keep it on my desk. And there are some days that I want to pull my hair out. I want to like scream. And I look at that token and it brings back all the feelings that I had the moment that colleague gave the rock, gave this to me, that I'm like, okay, breathe. I can, I can get through this. And so in a lot of cases, these little tokens don't just have that moment of appreciation, impact, and effect. They can actually have a lasting one, and have different impacts as that person's going forward, and kind of remembering and reminding themselves, in this case for me, to laugh and to have fun and enjoy, because we'll get through whatever is kind of happening in that moment. So absolutely. So as Mary kind of highlights, small things can make this huge difference for people, and we tend to try and go really grandiose with it, and you just don't need to. Personalizing it really makes a difference too. I did you can just do these little notes. Martin Heidler creates these little thank you note cards out there, and he writes a little note on the back, and what's on it doesn't matter as much as what happened as a result of it. So I'm giving a conference session, right? And everybody's coming up afterwards and they're thanking me, and I'm super appreciative of the thanks and the comments everybody's giving to me. And then Martin walked up and he handed me this card, and he said, thank you, take time when you have time to read, you're overwhelmed right now, but I really appreciated it. And so I did. I in the moment I had everybody coming up to me, I wasn't dealing with it. And then later, I actually had a minute to myself, right? After everybody was out of the session and everything. And I sat down and I read the card, and this little tiny note card, right? And huge difference, huge impact, to the point that I laminated it, okay? I cannot believe I'm admitting this live publicly, but I laminated this card. Not so much even exactly what Martin highlighted to me. It was almost became a token and reminder of my value, right? Like what he was calling out was that I was willing to be vulnerable. I was willing to put myself out there. I was willing to say the tough things sometimes, and that made a difference. And so when we talk about appreciation, and not just recognition of, Tricia, you did a good job at speaking, but appreciation of, hey, this inherent value that you're bringing to the table of who you are is super important. And for me now, this has not only helps me remember that moment, but it kind of reminds me of what sometimes my other superpowers are, and what I need to be bringing to the table and doing as I go forward. And so it's something I carry with me. I keep it in my work bag when I go to conferences and things. But I will honestly say, I don't often think to do those little notes. Like sometimes I'm a little bit better on an email or a text, but the email or a text is hard to keep. It's hard to laminate. And so whether you're giving cards to people, you're giving a little note card to people, something a little handwritten, honestly, I know it seems like, oh, Tricia, you're showing your age. But it just is, it demonstrates that it was valuable enough for you to take the time to go look for the card, or to fill out the card to give it, that it really did mean something to you. And I realized that we should just kind of go, oh, well, if somebody's appreciating you, obviously it's legit. But for me, I'm constantly like, oh, you're just trying to be nice. Like I am still, my deflect ability is still on par. And so when I see someone that sends me a card or takes that extra little bit of time, it actually starts to make it feel dismissive, and not in a good way of deflecting, but in a bad way of being rude to the person that decided to take the time to share that with you. And so it forces me to be a better receiver when I get it in kind of an actual card or a little note card like that. More so than just even in a text or an email, because again, as much as I carry my phone with me everywhere. Side note, I think I would be more upset to lose my phone now than my purse, which I'm not sure what that says about me, but whatever. And so, the way that you go about it can have different impacts. And and don't, the last one I'm going to kind of leave you with, or kind of, yeah, I'm just going to say it's crazy. Like, be unique, be different. People, you can go do searches for like what can people appreciate, gifts for appreciation in the workplace, and they'll have tons of ideas. I think see lists of like 60 ideas for employee, recognition and appreciation. But don't be afraid to be a little crazy and unique with it. Some of the best moments and things that I most enjoy are when teams start appreciating in a really humor dynamic and kind of just unexpected. We used to do at one of the companies I worked with. I'm going to give them a shout out because they're doing a lot of really awesome things right now, given what's going on. So at TechSmith, I highly recommend. They have some tools for great online collaboration and communication. So I'm going to give a plug for TechSmith, a shout out to them, and thank them for their offer and helping people right now too, and providing free trials and extended free trials with features. So kudos TechSmith. I'm really proud of you guys. But when we were there, we actually did a little bit of appreciations, and we always had these random like prizes because the prize wasn't really what the appreciation was about, right? Like the appreciation, we wanted to give something a little bit more public. We wanted to be able to peer recognize and appreciate each other, not just from leadership. And so we made the prizes or the awards really quite comical at times. And honestly, as a leader, sometimes it was some of my best days trying to find the crazy unique gifts. What I didn't realize was how much that I was like, nobody's going to want this. They're just going to throw it away, right? And yet it kind of stuck. Like people had random, like people fought over things that I was like, who cares? Nobody wants that, right? I learned things that existed that I'd never need to know existed, like the 5-pound gummy bear. I like gummy bears. No one needs a 5-pound individual gummy bear. Like, it's just disturbing that exists out there. But it was a prize, and it was something we gave out, right? But when I left actually TechSmith, what I wasn't expecting and didn't know was they went and figured out and decided some of the craziest prizes and appreciation things that they had, that we had given out. They actually returned back to me. So I am not, and I pulled this out, and I'm not sure we can fully give the full impact of this, right? But this is, okay, for the days that you just need a hug. And since we're in this isolated environment right now, oh, it's going to attach to my things. If you just need a hug, you can, it's just a way to give yourself a nice little hug. And I laughed so hard when they gave this back to, like, they bought another one and they gave this thing back, and I've kept it. I totally kept it. My husband still doesn't know. He's like, what is that? But it ends up being fun. It creates kind of a different dynamic. And so it adds to the appreciation, not just in a very direct kind of way of, thank you for what you're doing specifically, but it creates this environment, creates this exposure when it is kind of crazy and different. It's like, where did you even find that? And it becomes kind of a way to, I don't want to say bond, but connect, right? And engage as you're going forward with it. So it's a lot of fun. I highly encourage you to get a little crazy with it. Go find unique, different things. Just be prepared as a leader. They might come back and haunt you with it. But that's a good thing too. And it really highlights that you're creating not only, especially an agile culture of experimentation and growth, but appreciation, because growth and experimenting is super hard, and it's exhausting, and it's overwhelming at times. And if we're not spending the time kind of dealing with the ratio that we need and building back up appreciations and helping people value their values and what they bring to the table, we're going to make the work a lot harder for us. And we just don't need to do that. So take the extra time. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be elaborate or super public. Just take the time to truly appreciate somebody and look around and see whether that's at work, whether that's at home, whether that's in your neighborhood, whatever. Especially right now, a little more appreciation might help us all. Oh, and see, I'm gonna get a little sappy anyway. See, it was supposed to be the opposite way with it. So we'll give a minute and see if we have any questions. And I've got to look on multiple platforms, so I'm gonna go off of my phone and cheat and look down for a minute and see if we've got anything from a new things. Who should give out appreciations? Everyone. I don't wait for specific leaders to only give out appreciations. That's archaic. Leaders should be giving out appreciation, should be acknowledging those, but anybody and everybody should. I know I was even victim, not victim, disappointed in myself recently. I ended up sending an appreciation to a colleague with mine at Agile for All, and their reaction when they said is, they were super grateful that I sent this text, and then they highlighted that they hadn't heard that recently. They needed to hear that, they hadn't heard it, and then I was like, oh, because I have felt it for a really long time. Shame on me for not saying it, right? And so I think everybody should, and to your peers, to your bosses, to people that work for you, to all around. If there's something to appreciate, take the minute and do it. It's across the board with it. We have another question with how do you best do this in a remote situation? The nice part is the remote sometimes makes it a little bit easier, especially if you feel a little awkward in giving appreciations or highlighting that, because you don't have to get on Zoom. It might seem a little weird. It's like, hi, colleague, would you join on a Zoom for 2 minutes so I can appreciate you? Like, that might be a little awkward. They might go for it, but it might be a little awkward. But this might be where, you send that text, or you send the message. You can still send a card. I had a friend from Michigan that just sent me a card, and all the card said was smile, and March will go by, and so in some ways the remote dynamic doesn't really change how you can go about it. Now it's harder to personally hand something like this to somebody, or shop for it right now, but take a step in any way that you can right now, and then level up. Even doing the research right now on those crazy, unique things that are out there that you can then get when you're back in the office, or back able to travel, or just able to shop and again out there and stuff. So I don't think the remote changes too much in terms of what is out there and options with it. It does mean you have to make more of an effort, in the sense that it's easy to go a day and maybe have very little interaction with people because you're in your own house, or maybe you weren't on video conference calls all day. So it might seem like there's less opportunities to truly appreciate, and yet, honestly, we're in a world where people are like crazy figuring things out and trying to do things. I mean, I'm very grateful I do not have little kids. I have teenagers, because I am, I was working with somebody and she's got younger kids, and she's trying to work while dealing with the kids and I'm like, you're Superwoman. Like, you're amazing. And so in some ways there's even more to appreciate about people right now, but you're going to have to make a more of an effort to do it, because you may not just have those frequent connections as you would if you were in the office. And let's see if we got anything else. It looks like that is it, and we're pretty close on time. So with that, we will call it for today. We have daily doses going out. Often Peter Green's kind of giving information and putting that out there. There are some virtual classes that we didn't want to leave students hanging that were scheduled in person for this month and next month that we have made virtual for people, so you can check that out. I'm personally holding on and hoping, waiting for the day that we can have in person back, but we are doing virtual, and other colleagues really enjoy the virtual, and so they've been doing it already even before any of this happened. So those things are out there available for you, and if you need anything, just holler, let us know. Good luck, and we'll see you in a couple weeks again. Have a good day.